what's the most beautiful place on the planet Earth? A lot of places come to mind. You may think of Hawaii, Brazil, Peru, etc., Japan, but did you ever think of New Zealand? I would like to take your time to explain the beauty of New Zealand and its country in 3 different ways. First, I'm going to be talking about the natural environment and structural beauty. That is, there's the natural structure of the world, and plus the architecture of the world, being as my mom is an architect, and that is my connection to the topic. Her boyfriend is an actual full-blooded New Zealander, and he is also a structural engineer as well. And also, she has her own business, and she's had one for about 3 to 4 years now. And I do have business cards, not on me, though I wish I did, so I could pass them around and show you. And here I'm going to how do I switch it to picture?
Live. Hit the stop, nope, no, hit it again, top.
Which one?
In text,
Text? Okay.
hit it again, it should say live. Yeah.
Here we go. Is there any way to make it more clear?
You can zoom in.
Alright, this is a picture of my mother, and this is one of the sounds in the background, or is irrelevant. Which brings me to my next point, the environment and its beauty, and also structural beauty. The sounds, there are 15 large sounds that are located all over New Zealand. There's a lot of sub-sounds, which are like a lot smaller, typically fresh water, but there's so many of them I couldn't even find an exact number. Some of the examples of the major sounds are the Milford Sound, Doubtful Sound, and the Sutherland Sound, etc. These things are really fun. A lot of people from all over the world, they'll gather. You can scuba dive, you can do kayaking, a lot of fishing tournaments in these areas, so to speak. Swimming, not so much because there's not so many beaches. They're kind of rough around the edges. Not so much sand builds up as it is fresh water. There's not so much a current, so to speak. Caves. There are many, many caves under New Zealand. So many in which, yes, there is no definite number. They're still discovering caves even to this very day. Some of the caves are very popular though. They even have some have their own websites. You can find these at newzealandlive.com. Some examples are the Waitomo Caves and the Waitomo Glowworm Caves. And in these caves, they are, you can take trips to them. You can kayak through them if they're water-based caves. Some are dry. You can hike through them. There's tour guides that will take you through there, and you can explore and everything. The Glowworm Caves are probably one of my favorites because whenever you go in, it's like, it looks like an entire galaxy. It's like lights all over the place, and like it looks like chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, and they glow in the dark. That's pretty crazy. My next point would be towns and buildings. The beauty of the towns and the buildings and the architecture of them. As I said, yes, my mom is an architect, and so I can relate. Low population in these towns typically. They still retain their old buildings, mostly. A lot of these towns from like mid-1900s, they still stand. They're still habitable as well. They're not abandoned completely. They're all spread out usually. The biggest city in New Zealand is Auckland, and even that's not a very big city. New Zealand's kind of spread thin on population, so people that want to go out and like get their own place, so to speak, you're going to have a lot of wide open area. It's really beautiful. The roads are usually really clear. Not much traffic, you know, with the population as well. This is another picture of the sounds. And this is my mother's wedding day. Any way to make the blueness kind of go down a bit? That helped a little bit. Yeah, this is one of the sounds in the backdrop. It's my mom. I'm not sure what sound this was whenever they got their wedding app to sound, but here it is. All right, another attribute of the beauty of New Zealand would be the social behavior. Now, I'm covering social behavior and attaining it to beauty because a healthy society is a good behaviored society, in which I've determined New Zealand actually is. The healthier society, typically the more beautiful they perceive it different ways. All right. My first point about the social behavior is a historical point. It involves the war involvement of New Zealand. New Zealand has only declared war one time before, and that was the First World War, and they declared it against Germany, only to side with one of the great powers that were fighting in the war, so they weren't thrown off to the side and hereby attacked indirectly. Let's see. Also, the Maori, which are like the original tribal residents of New Zealand, they did have conflict in the very, very beginning of the settlement of New Zealand. Whenever English settlers came to try to settle it, the Maori didn't like that. It's been very similar about how like Columbus and the Native Americans were. It's very, very much the same story in a way. Violence records. I compared New Zealand to America and determined the violence records and the differences. And according to Nation Master, these are the records as such in New Zealand compared to what they are in America. 10 being the worst. I'm not sure what the measurements are in general, but I know that 10 is the worst. New Zealand's rate is 1.3 on the murder rate. The US is 5. Total crimes, this one's a little more accurate. This is numbers annually, and this is of last year. New Zealand had 427,230 crimes completely that were registered. The US had 11.88 million. So big, yeah. Big difference. Social norms. This is another attribute. You can attain this to beauty because the way that people pronounce themselves, let's say we have an example here in the workplace, an example on the streets. People perceive this as good nature. That again leads to a healthy society. Health is attained to beauty. And here we are, sexist and racial comments in the workplace, even under the slightest. I wish I had an example for you. They're eligible for the worst punishment. They can be extremely penalized, even uttering a very small phrase attaining to anything that could be offensive in a sexual way or in a racial way. That goes as far as in the public as well as the workplace. They kind of coincide. Alrighty. Right. My one-on-one research, this is personal, back and forth, with an actual New Zealander. As I said, my mom, her boyfriend, is a full-blooded New Zealander. This is, it wasn't direct talk-to-talk, in person. I had to talk with him over Facebook. And I could not talk with my mom very much. I had to actually call her, which costs a little bit of money because it's kind of far away. But she doesn't have Facebook, it's a privacy thing. His name is Matthew Jack, by the way, my mom's boyfriend. I asked what he thinks about his country and if he thinks it's beautiful, and I quote, he says, I don't want to boast that we are the best, but I do think the majority of the country and things around are well organized. Not exactly to my point, but that's his opinion of it, and that's what I got from it. My mom, I asked her the same thing, if she thinks New Zealand is beautiful. She quotes, I asked her what she thought was beautiful and also what she thought of the population and how people reacted to her, and whenever she talks to people from that country and how they perceive her as being from a different country and if they had any discrimination against her. And her quote, being part of the country for so long gave me a pretty good view. I have met very few dickheads. All right. Conclusion. As we've covered, the environmental and structural beauty of New Zealand is a visual thing for the most part, and I will show you the video here in a second to sum it all up. Actually, yeah, let's open it right now.
Deep in the South Pacific, first to see the dawn of a new day, Aotearoa, New Zealand.
New Zealand is a land of magnificent contrasts. There really is something for everyone. Lush subtropical beaches, high country tussock lands, snow-covered mountains, breathtaking deep blue fields, native forests with their unusual vegetation.
Excitement, action, a chance to do something you never thought you would do. This is New Zealand. Come and take a look.
Alright, now as you saw, there are many, many more things to do out in nature that I covered, but I got some of the bigger ones that draw in more and more attention. Anyway, and yes, for my one-on-one contact with Matt the New Zealander and my mother after being there for so long, even they will agree that they do have a beautiful country.